Hi everyone, and today I'm going to be interviewing Penny Beale, who's an old friend of mine. We used to work together when I was doing healing and you were doing fitnessy things and rehab and PTing, but now you've evolved and you've become a relationship coach, haven't you, darling?
I have indeed. I have.
So I've not seen Penny in a while. She moved out of the UK 5 years ago back to New Zealand, where she's from originally. And we are just going to discuss what Penny's up to now and the importance of relationships in everything that we do. Go ahead. So tell us about what you do, please, Penny.
Cool. So early on in my personal training career, I started to train as a coach and a healer. And so just started with the standard things like Reiki and life coaching and things like that. And the reason I got into it is because I had a client who I just showed up, and as you do, I said, "Hi, how are you?" And she burst into tears. And so we just went to the fire escape because that's the only space there was in the gym. And that's when I did my first rudimentary life coaching session. And I just kept getting all these clients that were sort of relying on me to kind of help support them in that way. And then I noticed that my clients that weren't getting the results they wanted, they always had so much going on in the rest of their lives, like lots of stress and all of this kind of stuff. And so I was like, right, I need to retrain. I need to get more skills so I can help them in these areas as well. And then I found it was a massive interest for me. I really loved that, but I also needed that work myself hugely. And so that's when I really started my own kind of self-work and journey around that stuff. And a lot of like the biggest thing for the longest time that I wanted to heal within myself was my romantic relationships. They just always seemed to be shit. And so I kind of used to joke, Antonia, I used to joke that like I had this relationships curse and whatever. We shouldn't joke about curses, but I used to
They're
say,
very
yeah,
real,
you
and I
have
remove them
these
all the
things.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Might have been easier if that was the case. But but yeah, and
We can
so
create curses in ourselves by
yeah.
self-belief. So I think just to sorry to segue on curses since we're here, I think that curses are a very real thing and we can have them from past lives and we can definitely be cursed. But I think that one of the most cursing we have is our self-belief. And if you say that you're cursed, that you're always doomed to have crappy relationships, I'm sorry, you are creating your own curse. Words have power. Words are spells. Look at the word spelling. It's creating spells with words. So every time you're self-deprecating, too much of this, too little of this, I never get a good relationship, I'm too fat, no relationship will ever work for me, I always attract the wrong sort of guys, whatever it might be, you are manifesting whatever it might be. So curse is a manifestation and it's about the way that you speak to yourself. So just a segue on that. So we have to be careful with what we're thinking and what we're saying and have some emotional self-discipline, not to go down rabbit holes and just have these, just getting stuck thinking about these things ongoing, because it really can create curses and it really can cause damage ongoing. Back to you, Penny.
No, it's an important segue because it's 100% true. And yeah, the exact experience that I was having and that I saw many clients having, and then I work with my clients around now, and it's incredibly important. So yeah, I that was the biggest thing that I was working on. And a lot of it, there was past life stuff that came into it, and also I lost my dad when I was young, and it just taught me that, oh, if you love a man, he will leave you and most likely he will die. And so let's not risk having a heart broken again and smashed into the mud and being irreparably damaged from this. And so I did everything subconsciously I could to keep relationships away. And so I would date men that I was like attracted to and had fun with, but knew that there was never really going to be a heart connection there. And so I didn't risk that devastation. But I didn't know I was doing this for a long time. And then I met a good friend of mine who's still a close friend of mine now. We were both doing life alignment healing, which is an amazing, beautiful, powerful healing modality. And he said to me, I was I was seeing a guy on the other side of the world at the time that I'd met in Greece, and he was going to come over and visit in London. And thought I was excited about this. And he said to me, yeah, so, are you looking forward to him coming? And I was like, thinking that I was saying, yeah, absolutely. And he just looked at me, he's just very intuitive. And he was like, you are so not looking forward to him coming. Like, you couldn't get out of here fast enough. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And yeah, when we went into it deeper, I was like, oh my God, no way. I don't want him to come here. What if we end up together and then he would die or something would happen, and that would be it. And so we started working closely together and doing lots of healing work together. And yeah, I gradually moved through these past life issues and the present life things, and also things around self-worth and self-belief. And yeah, and now I moved back to New Zealand, and that was a massively intuitive decision because things were going really well in the UK. And I just got this intuition like, okay, you're moving back to New Zealand. And I'm just like, excuse me, what?
I had that about here, about Cornwall. I had exactly the same thing. I was here 3 days, and my intuition or God or my higher self or whatever went, move to Cornwall. Like, that's it. You have to move there. I just was told to do it. And I got back from my holiday on the Friday, and I put my house in the market on the Monday. I just was like, I did it. I was told to do it. I just do as I'm told by my higher self. I just get on with it. So yeah, same thing. You just have to
Amazing.
follow when you're told, very strongly that's the right thing to do. They go do it. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, amazing. I love hearing other people's stories like this. Yeah. And so within 3 months I was back. Like within 2 weeks I'd booked my tickets to come back to New Zealand. And yeah, 3 months I was back here. And then within 6 months I met my partner now. We were friends for 3 years, and we still had some stuff to move through. Like he's a bit younger than me, and he was,
Boy, boy.
I know. Right. And he was working through some stuff, and I was still getting adjusted to being back in New Zealand and doing all of the things that I needed to do. And yeah, and so then we got together a couple of years ago. And so yeah, and it's like even beyond the best relationship I could imagine. And it just keeps getting better. And I'm just like, yep, I have manifested the shit out of that. So yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. And so I guess the thing that I most want people to know is that no matter what your situation is now with relationships, whatever your fears, your doubts, your kind of resistance is, it's can 100% be changed. You just have to want it enough and commit to it. And that's it. You got to commit to it and do the work, and it can be done.
Nice. That's beautiful. So what do you do with clients these days? So how do you work?
So a lot of it is emotional work. And so we have our beliefs and the things that you were talking about before, the words that we say, the spells that we cast on a day-to-day basis. Not just externally, but internally. Like a lot of us, you'll find the things that we're just saying in our minds, or the conversations that we have with people, right? You'll just notice that if you've got a housemate or a friend or a partner or something, or a boss or anything, and you'll just start having these conversations with them in your head of what you think might happen or what you're afraid of happening and stuff. And again, you're casting that spell for that to be the situation that you have with them. And so let's say somebody is afraid of their partner cheating on them, then they're going to be having conversations in their head of like confronting them or something like this. And so yeah, really noticing the conversations inside, the thoughts, the feelings, switching that around and moving through the emotions that come up. I think a lot of people want to spiritually bypass and be like, everything's great, I'm happy, I'm beautiful, just focus on that, which is important at the point that you actually genuinely believe that and you're actually there. But to do the work, to do the shadow stuff, to go into it and to be like, okay, so there's some big stuff here. I have these massive beliefs, I've got these big habits, and I need to sit with them because they come up for a reason. Like these uncomfortable emotions, they're not bad. They just don't feel very nice, but they're there for a reason, and they're alerting us to something. And so sitting with them, allowing ourselves to transmute them, to transform them so that they can move out of our bodies, move out of our energy, and then we can become clear. Because from that clarity, that creates this beautiful, like easy way to hear our intuition. And so we're like, okay, I know what to do. I know what's right or wrong. And so if you're in a relationship and something strange is going on, you know if that is a red flag or if that is just like they're, I don't know, planning a surprise party for you or something. You know whether it's like, should I pay attention to that and like bring it up? Should I process this emotion myself, or is it fine? I just leave it.
I do think spiritual bypassing is a big issue within our community, and I'm glad that you've brought it up, because it is very easy to just be love and light, and it can be fake. There's a lot of fakeness within spirituality. I'm sorry, but I just, I'm here to call out on the bullshit. And it's very easy to just pretend everything's perfect and to ignore this like whopping great big festering issue which you swept under the rug. And the bravery that being spiritual is not for the faint-hearted. It's for the brave who are actually willing to open the door and look at their stuff and go, huh. The way that I like to talk about it is it's the way that you're saying, but also when was I a dick? When was I mean? When was I nasty? When was I unkind to somebody or myself? When was I not my best? And why was that? Why was I triggered? What happened when I stopped being kind? And when you notice that you stop being kind to yourself with the self-deprecating thoughts, or to another, or pushing people away, or whatever it might be, you start noticing those and noting them down, and then start to work through them with whoever your practitioner may be, or by yourself. But you have to work through things until they're benign. So if you can get to the point where you can think about something which is upsetting and it no longer triggers you and no longer makes you upset, then you know that you've worked through your shadow. And there are loads of different people you can do this with, or you can do it by yourself, but you have to get it so there is zero resonance. When there's no resonance, there's no reaction. You stop inviting these things, self-cursing, and bringing these things to you. And it's so important to be able to work through these things and notice.
Yeah.
So, relationships, you were saying earlier about lots of relationships in every way. So, how do you work through different relationships with people?
And so by different relationships, we were talking about earlier, like your relationships with money, your relationships with your environment, your relationships with friends and all sorts of stuff. And so often people, their focus is on romantic relationships. And when we focus on that or anything, we've got to come back to ourselves. We've got to come back to how do I feel about myself? And so a lot of the time, if I'm working with someone who is wanting to regenerate a relationship, or they're wanting to just create a relationship in their lives, then I'm looking to set that relationship up now before they get into it, or before they create the new relationship with their current partner, because you can set up a relationship. And that's the ideal that you're going to do. You set it up before you actually move into it, because we set the precedent for how we want to be treated. And so if you are currently treating yourself, like you said, self-deprecating, you're putting yourself down, you're not being kind to yourself, all of that stuff, how do you expect your partner to treat you? You're setting the precedent for that. And so they're going to treat you how you treat yourself. And so this is a big thing about really moving through the ways that we treat ourselves, and by demanding through treating ourselves that way, that we will be respected in this way, that we will be honored in that way. And so it's a big thing about honoring yourself. And that can be so much harder than what people think, because we have resistance to that, because we're like, oh no, I'm arrogant if I do that. Oh no, I'm not taking care of other people. And there's this the person to think about, and blah, 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 blah. We have so many excuses and reasons and triggers as to why that's hard for us. And so everything comes back to ourselves. But then we look at everything and we say, okay, how am I in relationship to nature? We're the same thing, but we like to give it a different name. But how am I relationship to the me that is nature? How am I relationship with the house that I'm living in, with food, with, there could be addictions and things like that, with money. And it's looking at it in the same way, and looking at the conversations that we're having between ourselves and that other entity or those other people. And so it's a powerful journey. Whenever we look at relationships, we're really looking at everything, because we can't help but look at everything, because things, they want to hide under rugs and stuff. But as soon as you start really focusing on yourself and noticing noticing how you feel in different situations, and noticing how comfortable you are in different situations, or how uncomfortable you are, or the things that you avoid. Because a lot of us avoid things that we would love to do because we're terrified of something. So a lot of people don't go in the ocean because they're afraid of sharks, or they're in, whatever else is in the ocean. But the connection that we have when we're in the ocean, oh my God, that is amazing.
So important, and it's really grounding, and it's very good for mental health in so many ways. We've got it's very cold. I'm by the ocean, but it's cold here. But a lot of people are doing their cold water swimming, and a lot of people are, connection to that, to the ocean, and you feel very grounded. You feel very connected. It helps people hugely with anxiety. That calms down being by the sea or in the sea. I interviewed Laura Hoff, who's Wim Hof's daughter, a few weeks ago as well, and she's absolutely fascinating, talking about cold water exposure and all the breathing techniques that she does. But it's so important to get into the sea. It just nourishes your soul. And there's also minerals that we need. There's a lot of magnesium and all these different minerals which actually ground you. So if anyone's ever too much in their head, get into nature, whether it's the sea or into a forest or whatever's going, put your phone down, put your feet on the ground, on the grass, and just get into nature. It actually stops that brain chatter. It calms it significantly. So any anxiety, anything that people are worried about or fretting about or just overloaded or overwhelmed, getting into nature is the easiest and free way to just come back to yourself.
I so agree. Yeah, we swim in the river and in the sea here all the time, and yeah, just walk around bare feet. It's yeah, it's that
I just wish the
connection.
sea was warmer here.
You got to get into the cold water therapy. And so
I know. I think Laura's going to come down here and we're going to do an event. She'll make me go in the sea. We're talking about doing an event down here.
you'll get
So
to scream a lot.
is what?
You'll get to scream a lot. It'll be great.
Dear Lord. Yeah, no, I'll have to just be brave and get into it. I mean, I get in the sea all the time, but in a wetsuit. I go surfing and things, but I just don't do it sans wetsuit. But I'm sure I will. I'm sure that's going to happen because why not? It's a new experience, and that's the thing. Like, even turning the shower down for 15 seconds at the end of the shower is uncomfortable. And when we get comfortable with being uncomfortable, then everything becomes easier. If we have a challenge in the morning that we manage to surpass and get things done, it makes the day easier. When you've already won, then you've just started on a win and you'll elevate yourself. So I probably will at some, I just forget, to be honest. It's not that well, no, I need to probably write myself a post-it note because Laura said to do 15 seconds at the end of the shower, and I'm absolutely happy to do it. And I am brave enough to do it. And bravery is not something that I'm lacking. I just forget to do it. So I might have to start doing that from tomorrow. Oh God.
It is amazing. And I love that you said about being comfortable, because I think we forget in our modern lives how damn comfortable we are. Like,
so too comfortable. And we are the
too
most
comfortable.
privileged, and we have the easiest time. If we look back in history, even 100 years ago, the fact that we've got heating, we've got instant access to all the libraries in the world, we've got instant entertainment. You would have to be a king, and you would occasionally have someone playing an instrument coming to court, or maybe that if you were, just in a village, you'd have someone who was playing an instrument. But we've got unlimited music from the best artists, unlimited movies, unlimited anything. There are very few tribes or people actually coming to kill us. Like, we are the most comfortable and we've got the most easiest lives. I know a lot of people are suffering, but if you look at it superficially, we've got such comfortability. And then obviously there are a huge amount of pressures from jobs and from money and from all these different things. But on the physical, we're super comfortable. On the emotional, was probably the most uncomfortable we've ever been. Yeah.
Well, we're in that time of shifting and changing. Like when I first started doing this this work, I call it feel it. Really, the basis of it is when you're diving into your emotions. This was, I don't know, over a decade ago. And that was when everyone was really talking about positive thinking. And I'm sort of just saying the odd thing about feel your emotions, feel into the stuff. And people are sort of like, what are you talking about? Like, that sounds shit. And it's like, okay, but you might want to give it a go. And there was just that constant chatter of like, I'm so great. Like, you ask people and they're like, how are you? And they're like, I'm wonderful. And you're like,
Are
seem
you?
wonderful.
People are lying to themselves as well. And then, you might say it superficially, but it's very obvious from people's energy. And I think people are becoming more attuned to that we can see when people are not wonderful. But it's
Yeah.
easier to say, it's easier to lie and pretend that we're okay when we're not, rather than do the work. It's why people
And
need coaches to do it.
we don't really have that culture where it's safe for somebody to say how they really are, even if it's not a diatribe into their health issues, which is not really what we're asking for here. But even if it's just somebody to say, not great today, and just kind of be able to leave it at that and go, oh, I'm sorry that you're not great. We don't even really have a culture where it's safe for people to say that. Like, I have this culture within my friendship circles. Like, I'm incredibly fortunate in that way, and I've set it up like that. But
Mm-hmm.
but that is not a normal thing. Like, you're at work or something, somebody's not going to say, oh, not really that good. At best, they're going to say, oh, not bad. Not bad. That was the common answer in the UK when I was living there. It was like, hey, not bad, or all right.
Well, the
Fine.
problem is as well, it can be very triggering, and or often aren't safe spaces. Like if you suddenly say, "I'm not doing great," then you might end up getting really overly emotional and feeling very upset, and maybe you're starting crying or something. And sometimes you're in a meeting or you're in an environment which isn't good for facilitating that. So I do think that, private conversations in safe spaces, you can be a lot more vulnerable than you can in a "Hey, how are you?" in a party, because I think that's not set up.
Yeah, it's not set up. And I think it would be amazing to be set up where you can just say that and somebody goes, hey, I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. Noted, rather than, cool, tell me all about it. And it can just be
And
that concise.
explore it later, and just, and you can just,
Yeah.
I don't know, put a pin in it and then go back to it and say, okay, I feel that, why don't we have a chat on the phone tomorrow and we can go through it. I think that would be a really nice way of doing it, because sometimes it's not the right time for a multitude of reasons. But if we can put a
Absolutely.
pin in it and let's have a chat tomorrow, I think that would be so helpful for everybody.
Yeah, and then we're being honest, and we're not doing that thing of not being kind to ourselves, because when we're saying to somebody, yeah, I'm great, and we're inside thinking, holy shit, this is not great. What are you talking about? So yeah, I think that is something that I would love to see, and I think it is starting.
I
We
think
are
so.
getting more of that, as it's kind of like, it's okay to actually say how you're not doing well as really celebrating your wins. Like, that balance of both things is perfect, really. It's a beautiful
And
it's
I
a
also
beautiful
think celebrating, I don't know, British people, a lot of the time they don't celebrate their wins, they minimize them. And I know that there is a whole thing about being humble, but I genuinely think that that's uh, a problem with the dark side, which are keeping us small. I think a lot of it, there's ways of saying things and being excited about it and say, I've just done this, I'm so excited about it. And which is just coming from a place of love and excitement. I think there's another way of coming and just saying, I'm the best at this, and it's putting someone down. You could be doing it from an arrogant place, which is really pushing yourself up and putting somebody else down. Or you can say it from an excited place, which is bringing everybody up. And I think that in Britain, we have an issue with actually bragging, but that's ever talking about your loves and your excitements can be seen as bragging, which I think is another issue which we have. Not celebrating, not being truthful with your good or your bad, I think is a big problem that we have in society these days, both directions.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's even worse in New Zealand, that because it's the tall poppy syndrome, and it's people, nobody
What's
wants to
that?
be. So the tall poppy syndrome is like, I'm standing out, I'm the tall poppy, everyone can see me. And so if I'm great at something, I'm going to stand out. And so what happens is that people cut the poppy down. They're
Oh,
like, oh, you're making me feel bad because you're so good at that. So I'm just going to take you down. And so now people do it to themselves. So we've been taught
right.
from a young age that we're going to be knocked down. So we knock ourselves down. And we don't even get to that point where we're excited about something, because we're already going, oh, I did this thing, it was nice. You don't worry about that anyway. How are you? Straight away. And I think it is such a sad thing that we don't get to celebrate those beautiful things, because that's, you know, that's a big reason why we're here, right? Is we want to be able to experience joy and connect with people over that, rather than just trauma bonding with somebody and being like, yeah, me too, that's shit, blah, blah, blah. We want to be able to say, wow, I've had that amazing experience too. I had this great day surfing. I did this, you know, and yeah, I smashed it at that.
I really think, because I've always had a few people in my life which is I've always just got on with really well, and there's sort of like a mutual appreciation club that I've got with a few people, and you don't see them very often. And when I see them, we just literally sit down in front of each other and just go, "What have you been doing?" And they'd be telling me about all the amazing things that they're doing, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, that's amazing! You're amazing!" And they say, "What are you doing?" And they have the same thing, and it's just so nice when you've got that, and it's not competitive. It's they are a lot of them in music. A lot of my friends are musicians, and I'm not musically talented. And so, you know, they're playing with in these big bands, or they're on tour and they're having these experiences, and it's completely different. There's no competition. We are different from one another, and we, even if they're healers, I don't have competition. I'm just not a competitive person that way. Yeah, but it's so nice to listen to them and them to tell me about all of their joys, and just to get filled up with excitement because of where they're succeeding. And even with healers, you know, they're different to me. All the healers that I know, no one does what I do. And no one could do what I do, and I couldn't do what they do either, you know. But it's so nice to hear and then to bounce ideas off them, and they're achieving this, and it's just this collaboration. We can do collaboration, not competition, because when we collaborate, we all get better. When we compete, it's just there's no need. It doesn't really help. No one ever wins at anything. You can't win. The collaboration is where we win, not competitive, not competing in everything that we do.
I love that you said that too, because I remember I lived with this flatmate, I mean, 15 years ago or something. And she was a scientist, and she was saying that because it's always like, who discovers it, who makes a discovery, who comes through with something. So
Yeah,
everyone had their noses down and no one is allowed to see their research. Whereas if they collaborated, we might actually
faster.
get some shit solved. We might actually, you know, really create some amazing stuff, or solve some major issues with things. But no, you've got to stay completely individual and not share it with anyone. And I just thought that was so sad and lonely. And yeah, we do. We absolutely need to collaborate, because, you know, no one is going to be as good at being Antonia as you are. No one is going to be as good at being me as I am. And we have our special, unique lights that are here to uplift other people and to shine the light on them. And so, yeah, we need to collaborate. Totally down with it.
And I do think it's a dark agenda to stop us from collaborating, because it's a fear-based agenda. Once we
Mm.
transcend all the fear, like, you know, you're going to steal my business, or you're going to be discovering something that you know, it's all fear-based. And if we have the collaboration, it's transcending the 3D emotions into the four and fifth dimensional emotions. And that's where we start winning, by collaborating. Because, you know, I'm never going to be as good at you with the stuff that you do, because that's what, you know, you're particularly good at. You've created all these different ways of doing things, and that's fantastic. And people are going to resonate with you differently than they resonate with me. I'm not for everyone. You're not for everyone. No one's for everybody. And it's finding the right person for you, that you vibe with, it makes sense to you. But we can all learn from each other so much more. And I love that, you know, I've got my YouTube channel because I'm learning from all of my guests, and I'm always watching other people's shows and things as well, because I think we can always learn, and there's always more to learn. And if we just get, you know, nose down, singularly minded, and not collaborating, not thinking outside of the box, we box ourselves in. That's the thing that we do. I don't like to have these borders. I like to just learn and grow, and, you know, and having aha moments, because then it can help us all.
And this is the thing that massively affects relationships as well, of course, because if we don't want to just share our partner in terms of friendship, right? I'm not talking about, you know, some people are into polyamory. That's not really my thing, but it's totally cool that other people are into it. But, you know, just sharing and allowing, say, you know, I've got a lot of male friends, Phil's got female friends, and it's nice that we can spend time with those people and not have the jealousy and that kind of thing in there. And that is a form of collaboration and sharing, and recognizing that I've got an amazing partner and other people are going to want to spend time with him because he's
But
amazing.
it fills you up as well, because when you talk about it afterwards, they leave, you leave the situations with your male friends or his female friends or whomever you're spending time with, and you leave that situation being filled up. Then you bring that energy and feeling fulfilled back to your partner. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Otherwise you're just like, it's like you're talking about something that's like, I know I was there.
It's
It's
boring.
like,
Not having
what
collaboration in relationships makes relationships boring, and then you run out of
makes
things
us
to say.
boring?
Yeah.
Yeah, because and if we're boring, then that's all we've got to bring to the relationship. We need experiences on the outside.
Do. We do. So, any words of wisdom you want to leave people with before we close, or anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that that has been, massive in my relationship. I noticed like at the beginning of the relationship that I would get these like, I would get triggered or I get really angry about something. And because I already had my practice of working through my emotions, I would just give myself some time and I would sit with it and I would move through the feeling. And 99% of the time there was nothing I needed to say at the end of it. Because I would move through the trigger. Like you said, the charge was completely gone. There was no more resonance anymore. And I was like, oh shit, that was all my old stuff from past relationships or from dad dying or whatever. I don't even need to bring anything up. And then so many times, even if there was something I was a little bit annoyed about, he would come in and say, oh, I should have said that differently. Or, oh, here, I just wanted to give you this and I didn't think of it before or something. And I'm like, oh my God, I just created magic from changing the resonance in me, allowed him to completely change. And so I think let's not underestimate the power that we hold, every single one of us, the power that we hold to transform our lives and our relationships when we transform ourselves and how we feel in the stories we tell ourselves. And so we have so much healing power. Even if you think you're not a healer, you are.
Everyone's a healer. Everyone can be a healer. You just have to pick up the mantle and decide that that's what you want to do. If you want to, if you want to make change, start making changes. That's what we need to all do and notice. But yeah, we're all healers. We can all be healers. We don't have the propensity to do it. It's the most natural, normal thing in the world. It's just been shut down. We just need to reawaken it.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So where can people get hold of you, Penny, for some of your beautiful, amazing coaching?
So I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook and I have a website and it's pennybeale.com, which is PENNYBEALE.
It's on the screen if anyone.
It's on
And
the
below.
screen.
It's on the screen by her name, and it's also going to be down below in the description.
Yeah, so my website, and you can get hold of me on social media. That's the best place to find me.
And how does it work? Do you normally do programs, or how does working with you sort of work?
So my one-on-one clients, I do a 3-month program, and I also have lesser commitments for longer terms. And I've got some group programs. So I've got a program called Love Hack, which is a 4-month program, super, super powerful. And I've got information on my website about that. And so, yeah, if anyone is interested in joining, just let me know. I'll be launching that when it feels like the right time, maybe in the next month or 6 weeks. And yeah, and then I do some live stuff, but your audience is mainly going to be in the Northern Hemisphere. So unless you're planning a trip to New Zealand, which is very worth it,
New
then
Zealand's gorgeous. I've been. It's absolutely beautiful.
and we're in summer at the moment.
You are in summer at the moment. Spring is springing, apart from there's supposed to be snow tomorrow. So who knows? It's supposed to get super duper cold tomorrow.
Huh.
Yeah, so yeah, the hemisphere thing. Yeah, I put everything online because I've got students all over the world. I've got them in Australia, and have I got any in New Zealand? Maybe. But I've got America and quite a few in America and Australia, and it just doesn't work with the UK time zone. But that's
Yeah,
amazing.
I've got clients in Europe as well, and it's just either end of the day. And it works really well for those who are kind of at work and they want to do something at the end of the day. It's just the beginning of my day, and I'm like, sweet, we can do that early morning session. So yeah, it does work out. It does work
Well, it
out.
depends how long the sessions are. So if you're doing an hour session, then you can make it work absolutely. But if you're doing a workshop or something like that, it becomes a bit more complicated.
It does become a bit more complicated. Yeah, sessions are normally 90 minutes, so that tends to work. But yeah, workshops not as easy. But the online programs, we do them in 90-minute sessions, and then there's homework and stuff for people to do on their own. So yeah.
Nice. So are you mostly self-taught with this stuff, or you've developed you've got loads of different wisdom from lots of different modalities, and you've developed something yourself? Is that how it's actually worked out in the end?
Yeah, so it's come from life alignment, it's come from the energy work, it's come from the feel it work that I've done with my friend Adam Tallamy, who's an incredibly powerful healer. And you know, you bring elements in from Reiki and stuff, and then it's the intuition stuff. So a lot of the time I get images and visions for people and see different things, messages and stuff come through. So, you know.
Well, sounds really interesting. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Penny. Anything you want to say before we close, or have you covered
It
everything
was
there?
just great to reconnect with you and great to talk to you and great to be introduced to your audience. So thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Bye, everybody.